your educator Priyanka Thakur. I'm teaching you life sciences and welcome you all on our YouTube channel Guru Mantra Shiksha Ka Granth. Today in this video we will be knowing about the different antibiotics and toxins that inhibits translation. Along with this, we will know about RNA interference. We will study about small interference RNA and piRNA, pvRNA that we call. So let's start this video. We are going to start this video with one question, and I want you to answer that question in the comment section. I always ask one or two questions during my videos, but no one replies, and that make me sad. Okay, so please make me happy by replying for that particular question. So here you are having your question on your screens. Which of the following is involved in dissociation of ribosomal subunits after termination of translation? IF3, EFG, RRF, both B and C, EF2. Now you should know what is IF, EF, RRF means. Okay. So do answer in the comment section. I'm checking out all the comments because nobody comments, so I can definitely check one or two comments. Okay. So fine. Let's start with the antibiotics and toxins that inhibit the translation process. There is streptomycin, which will bind with the 30S subunit, and after binding with the 30S subunit, it causes the misreading of mRNA at relatively low concentration. See, our ribosome is involved in reading the mRNA, and after reading the codon of mRNA, it selects an appropriate mRNA and causes its binding. It selects an appropriate tRNA actually. It selects an tRNA which has anticodon complementary to that of the codon of mRNA. Okay, but when ribosomal subunit is not doing its work properly, then there will not be a proper translation process. So streptomycin will be binding to the 30S subunit which is present in the 70S ribosome, and it will cause the misreading of mRNA. And next is chloramphenicol. Chloramphenicol binds with the 50S subunit, and 50S subunit is also found in 70S RNA. 70S RNA is present in all the prokaryotes and mitochondria and chloroplast. After this chloramphenicol bind with the 50S subunit of our 70S ribosome, it actually blocks the peptide bond formation by inhibiting peptidyl transferase. Peptidyl transferase is the main enzyme which is responsible for the formation of peptide bond. If peptidyl transferase is inhibited, then there will no longer be formation of peptide bonds, and our translation process will be halted. Okay, so chloramphenicol binds with 50S subunits, and by binding to it, it inhibits the peptidyl transferase. Then there will not be any peptide bond formation. If there is no peptide bond formation, there is no protein synthesis. Fine. Tetracyclines, just like streptomycin, tetracyclines also binds with 30S subunits, and by binding with the 30S subunit, now they interfere with amino acyl tRNA binding. There is the difference between streptomycin inhibition and tetracycline inhibition. Both of these in fact binds to the 30S subunit, but streptomycin is going to cause the misreading of mRNA, but tetracycline will interfere with the amino acyl tRNA binding. Fine. If the ribosome is not reading the mRNA properly, or if the amino acyl tRNA is not binding properly, then protein synthesis will be affected. It may be inhibited. Okay. Next come our erythromycin, and this question was it was asked in 2020 CSIR NET JRF examination. Erythromycin, what is the role of erythromycin? It binds with the 50S subunit just like chloramphenicol, and it also blocks the peptide bond formation. The role of chloramphenicol and erythromycin is similar. Erythromycin binds to 50S subunit and blocks the peptide bond formation. Then come fusidic acid. This acid will bind to elongation factor G, okay, and then it will block the translocation process and hence elongation factor G is also known as translocase, okay. So that's how this acid is going to block the translocation. Elongation factor G or translocase is the main enzyme, main factor which is responsible for the translocation of ribosome over mRNA. Next is cycloheximide. Now this is the toxin which will block the peptidyl transferase of only 80S ribosome and not that of 70S ribosome, while tetracycline and erythromycin and chloramphenicol. Chloramphenicol and erythromycins are blocking the peptidyl transferase in 70S ribosomes, while cycloheximide blocks the peptidyl transferase only in the 80S ribosomes, okay, and hence there will be no peptide bond formation anymore. Is it clear to you now? So you learn all these toxins and antibiotics. Okay, what is the role of streptomycin? Okay, I will make you learn all these toxins and antibiotics. Next is puromycin. Puromycin is a secondary metabolite of Streptomyces albopicus. Okay, it is a secondary metabolite of Streptomyces albopicus. This puromycin is actually the structural analog of 3' end of amino acyl tRNA. But there is a difference between the puromycin and 3' end of amino acyl tRNA. What happened? The 3' end of amino acyl tRNA, it attaches to the ribosome with the help of ester bond, while the puromycin attaches to ribose sugar, not ribosome, with ribose sugar by an amide linkage. So that is clear to you that puromycin is a structural analog of 3' end of amino acylated tRNA. But tRNA will be attached to the ribose with the help of an ester bond, while puromycin is going to attach with the ribosome by an amide linkage. Okay. Now what happened? This puromycin is now placed on the P site. It get attached to the ribosomal P site. Then now it becomes difficult for ribosome. It becomes difficult to cleave the amide bond of this puromycin. So the amide bond cannot be cleaved by ribosome and no peptidyl transfer will take place. If no peptidyl transfer will take place, then there will be the inhibition of translation. Clear? Then next is diphtheria toxin. Diphtheria toxin, it inactivates the translation, it inhibits the translation in eukaryotes by inactivating the eukaryotic elongation factor 2. The main fragment of toxin that is causing the inactivation of elongation factor 2 is the A fragment. Okay, so diphtheria toxin is going to inhibit the translation process in eukaryotes. And how it will do this function? It will be inactivating the elongation factor 2. It means it will be interfering with the elongation of peptide chain. Ricin inactivates the 60S ribosomes. And how? 60S ribosomes, it means ricin is going to inhibit the translation in eukaryotes. Diphtheria toxin will be inhibiting the translation in eukaryotes. Cycloheximide will be inhibiting the translation in eukaryotes, and puromycin can inhibit in both, I think, in eukaryote as well as prokaryotes. Okay, so ricin inactivates 60S subunit of ribosome by depurinating. It will remove the purine from the adenosine in 28S rRNA. Now, I think your basics are clear about tRNA, RNA, adenosine, adenylic acid and all. So that's how you will be able to understand what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. Resin will be inactivating the 60S subunit of RNA by depurination of an adenosine in 28S rRNA. Okay. So clear to you what is the role of streptomycin? Streptomycin is going to bind with the 30S subunit and it will cause the misreading of mRNA. Chloramphenicol 50S subunit will block the peptide bond formation. Erythromycin will do the same. Tetracycline will bind with the 30S subunit, but it will interfere with the amino acyl tRNA binding. Okay. Fusidic acid is going to block the translocation by binding with the elongation factor G. Cyclohexamide is going to block the peptidyl transferase, but only in 80S ribosome. Puromycin can perform its function how? By binding with the P site where there will not be breakage of its amide linkage, and there will be no there will not be transfer of peptidyl group. Okay, and hence protein synthesis will be inhibited. Diphtheria toxin is going to block protein synthesis in eukaryotes, and resin also in eukaryotes. Okay, clear about antibiotics and toxins? You have to learn all these antibiotics and toxins because you are preparing for either ICMR, ICR, GATE, NET, JRF. Question from these antibiotics or toxin could be asked. Okay, so be ready for each and everything and learn all these antibiotics and toxins. So let's talk about RNA interference now. What exactly is RNA interference? So RNA interference is exactly a biological process. In this biological process, one RNA molecule is going to target another mRNA molecule, and it will inhibit, it will cause the silencing of this mRNA molecule. It will not allow the translation of this mRNA molecule. Okay, so RNA interference is a biological process in which RNA, small interference RNA or micro interference RNA molecules, they will inhibit the gene expression or translation by neutralizing targeted RNA molecule. Means RNA in doing interference, RNA interference, one RNA will be inhibiting the another mRNA. Okay, this RNA interference is also known as post-transcriptional gene silencing or transgene silencing and quelling. Okay, so this RNA interference is also known as post-transcriptional gene silencing, transgene silencing and quelling. It was discovered by Fire and Mello in Rhabditis elegans, C. elegans in 1998. Very recent, not that recent, but still recent. Okay, so RNA interference, it was first demonstrated by Fire and Mello, okay, in C. elegans in 1998. It was not exactly discovered but established. Okay, what is the role of RNA interference? It is going to play a very important role, like in transposon regulation or defending a particular cell against the viruses. Okay, so let's talk about the types of small silencing RNAs. There are miRNAs, siRNAs and piRNAs. So miRNAs are generally found in plants, animals and protists, and their length varies from approximately 20 to 25 nucleotide, and these RNA are dicer and Rocha dependent RNAs, while small interference RNAs, which are found in plants, animals, fungi and protists, and their length will be almost approximately 21 nucleotide, and these are dicer dependent, while piRNAs are found in metazoans. These are comparatively longer to that of miRNA and siRNA. These will have approximately 24 to 26 nucleotide, 24 to 27. You will be reading these number of nucleotide in different books, like 23 to 26, 25 to 27, but approximate to 23 or 26. Okay, but piRNAs are dicer independent. So remember, miRNAs are dicer dependent, siRNAs are dicer dependent, but piRNAs are dicer independent. In metazones, we will see piRNAs. And what exactly is RNA interference? It is a biological process in which one RNA molecule will be targeting another mRNA and will cause the silencing of genes in that particular mRNA. Okay, so let's see the siRNA mediated RNAi. What will happen? See, this is a double-stranded RNA. This is we call hairpin RNA. Okay, double-stranded RNA. How this double-stranded RNA can be formed? So it can be formed when an RNA is transcribed from the same DNA molecule. Okay, so same DNA molecule will be transcribing two RNAs, which will be now two RNAs will be complementary to each other. So that's how they will be transformed into the double-stranded RNA molecule. But immediately after double-stranded RNA molecule is formed, there come in action our dicer. Okay, this dicer cleaves the double-stranded molecule. It will not convert it immediately into the single-stranded molecule, but this dicer will cleave the molecule in approximately 21 nucleotide each. So there will be many fragments of a longer double-stranded molecules. Okay. So now these are the siRNA duplexes. These will have 3' overhangs and 5' monophosphates. Clear? Now what happened? These siRNA duplexes. Okay. Now they are dicer and the double-stranding binding proteins. Dicer and double-stranded RNA binding proteins, I'm telling you again, dicer and double-stranded RNA binding protein, they are going to form a risk loading complex. Which one? Dicer along with double-stranded RNA binding protein forms an risk loading complex. Okay, risk loading. Risk means RNA interference silencing complex. Dicer along with double-stranded binding molecules form a risk loading complex and they load the double-stranded DNA to the risk complex. Okay, and then the double strands, the bond between the double strand will be broken and there will be the formation of one guide strand and one passenger strand. Passenger strand will be degraded during the risk activation and this guide strand is going to guide the risk complex to the targeted mRNA. So here is the guide strand, risk complex. Risk complex will have an endonuclease and important Argonaute protein. This guide strand will bring this whole risk complex to a targeted mRNA where the base pairing of guide to the mRNA will form a specific site for the action of risk complex. Here, the Argonaute now will cleave this targeted mRNA into small fragments and there will be no translation of this mRNA molecules. So this is what we call silencing of RNA by RNA interference. Clear or not clear? Now the fate of this degraded RNA molecule, now either they can bound to some other complementary RNA and form the double-stranded RNA, and again the same process will be repeated, like dicer will be performing its function again, and again there will be a risk loading complex which will load the double-stranded RNA molecule to the risk. Okay, so this process will be repeated again. Fine. And otherwise this degraded RNA molecule will further be completely degraded. Clear? So okay, let's read it now. What exactly happened during small interference RNA mediated RNA interference? In this pathway, double-stranded RNA is processed into small interference RNA duplexes. Okay, we know that by an enzyme dicer, definitely. 3' overhangs and 5' phosphates are formed. Clear? Dicer is actually an RNase 3 family enzyme and this dicer has different domains like ATP is RNA helicase domain, which will be splitting the two RNA molecules into guide and passenger strands, and catalytic RNA is 3 domain and double-stranded RNA binding protein. So this RNA dicer, okay, dicer with double-stranded RNA binding proteins, it form these both of these double-stranded RNA binding proteins and dicer. They form the RISC loading complex and then load the RNA duplex into the RISC, RNA interference silencing complex. Definitely. Now this siRNA provides, it is thought that siRNA provide the target specificity to RISC. And how? Through the base pairing of guide strand with target mRNA. Actually, there is the formation of two strands. One is guide strand that directs the gene silencing, and other is passenger strand which is degraded during RISC activation. Okay, so the active component of RISC are endonucleases called agronod proteins, which will cleave the target mRNA strands complementary to their bound small interference RNA. Clear to you now? I am repeating it again. There is the formation of double-stranded RNA. Dicer will cleave the RNA into small interference RNAs. Small interference RNA had different domains. Small interference, not small interference RNA, but dicer have different domains. Dicer along with double-stranded RNA binding proteins will form a RISC loading complex. Now it will load this double-stranded RNA molecules like siRNA or RNA duplex into the RISC. And now there will be the formation of a passenger strand and a guide strand. This guide strand will provide the specificity for the RISC. Okay, this guide strand is going to direct the RISC to the targeted mRNA. Fine. This guide strand base pair with the targeted mRNA, and their RISC complex perform its function. There, the agronod proteins perform its function by cleaving the mRNA molecules and silencing its genes. Clear? Fine. And last one is piRNA here. What is the role of piRNA? What does piRNA do? Okay. So piRNA, these are known as PV interacting RNAs. This binds to the PV clade of agonod proteins. This piRNA or we call them PV interacting RNAs. Actually, there is a PV clade in the agonod proteins. These piRNAs, PV interacting RNAs, binds to that particular PV clade. These are comparatively longer than miRNAs and siRNAs. And it is thought that this piRNA has been derived from the single-stranded RNAs. Now, unlike piRNAs, siRNAs and miRNAs, these piRNAs are dicer independent, but they will have a 2' O-methylated group. Okay, they will have 2' O-methylation at 3' terminal. The same will happen in siRNAs but not in miRNAs. At the 2' carbon, there will be the methylation of O at the 3' terminal. Fine. But it will not happen in case of miRNA. It happens only in case of piRNAs and siRNAs. And these piRNAs are involved in the cleavage of transposon mRNA or the chromatin modification at transposon loci. You have to remember the function of these piRNAs. It can be asked in any of the examinations, so you should know what is the role of piRNA. These piRNA cleaves the transposon mRNA or chromatin modification. They modify the chromatins at transposon loci. I hope everything is clear to you now. If there is anything which is not clear to you now, you can ask me. Okay? Don't get confused with anything. Be clear about your concepts. Clear? You should remember all the toxins or antibiotics which are involved in the translation. This is all for today. Tomorrow we are going to talk about RNA interference by miRNAs, which is another important topic about RNA interference. So that's all for today. We will meet tomorrow in our next lecture. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.